The USS Holloway slipped beneath the waves at 0430 hours, its hull groaning under the weight of pressure as it descended into the cold abyss of the Mariana Trench. Equipped with a state-of-the-art mineral scanner, its mission was simple: investigate anomalous concentrations of rare earth metals discovered by satellite. The Navy had said it was a routine geological survey, but no one sends a nuclear-class attack submarine for a rock collection. 3 days later, the Holloway stopped responding. The official explanation was a malfunction. A quiet press release blamed navigation failure, mechanical breakdown, and possible implosion. But no distress beacon ever surfaced. No wreckage, just silence. Swallowed whole. Commander Elise Grant stared at the looping sonar footage in the Situation Room aboard the USS Osprey, a surface vessel stationed roughly 90 nautical miles from the site of the last transmission. She didn't blink. The low-resolution sonar scan repeated every 10 seconds, a wide, static-heavy ripple in the water, almost like a pulse. Rhythmic. Intentional. Not natural. "That's not current drift," she muttered. "No, ma'am," replied Lieutenant Carson. "We don't know what it is." They'd been at sea for 4 days, ostensibly leading a follow-up search. But Elise knew better. This wasn't a recovery operation. This was containment. Rear Admiral Wexler had pulled her aside before departure. "Grant, you've seen deep-sea anomalies before. Strange lights, bizarre readings. But this one's different. We need someone who can stay calm if the ocean starts looking back." That line echoed in her mind now. If the ocean starts looking back. A subtle ping echoed through the sonar array. Then another. Carson stiffened. "That's new," he whispered. "Triangulate." They traced the source to a spot just outside the trench's rim. A drop so steep the terrain data went blank past a certain depth. The system labeled it simply Zone Red. Elise adjusted her headset. "Deploy ROV-3. We're not leaving without eyes down there." The remotely operated vehicle, a sleek, torpedo-shaped drone armed with high-res cameras and sample collectors, dove into the black. It passed schools of deep-water jellies, gliding silently past the flickering tendrils of bioluminescent life forms that had never seen the sun. The trench yawned wider as it descended, a jagged wound in the planet's crust. "Depth, 29,000 feet, Carson reported. "Approaching anomaly site." The camera feed glitched once, then stabilized. Static rolled across the screen like fog. Then, a shape. Something immense loomed beneath the ROV. The lights bounced off a surface not quite metal, not quite rock, gleaming, pulsating like something alive. Tendrils, or maybe cables, slithered across the ocean floor. They connected to massive, crystalline clusters buried in the sediment. The clusters shimmered. Then something moved fast. "Did you see that?" Carson said, pale-faced. "Bottom right." They rolled it back, frame by frame. A blur. No an eye. Huge, faceted, reflective like obsidian, staring straight into the lens. Then the feed went dead. "No signal," Carson murmured. "Total blackout." Elise stood slowly. "Get engineering to check for interference. And start sonar sweeps again. Every 10 minutes. No breaks." Carson hesitated. "Ma'am, what if it wasn't interference?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. That night, Elise couldn't sleep. Her quarters vibrated gently with the hum of the ship's engines, but that familiar noise now felt alien. She reviewed old case files on her tablet, unclassified reports of missing vessels over the last 5 decades. Every one of them had a common thread: mineral scans, sonar distortions, no distress call, and they all occurred near deep-sea trenches. It couldn't be a coincidence. She thought of her father, a naval engineer who vanished with the USS Orpheus in 1993 during a deep submergence test. That's what the Navy had told her mother. No wreckage, no evidence. Just a plaque and a folded flag. She had joined the Navy to chase ghosts. Now, one might have finally looked back. At 0300, the sonar console lit up. 3 pulses. Not mechanical. Not random. They form a pattern. "Is it Morse?" asked Carson, bleary-eyed from lack of sleep. Elise stared at the screen, heart thudding in her chest. 3 short pulses. 3 long. 3 short again. SOS, she whispered. Carson's face went cold. Ma'am, no vessel down there has power. That came from 30,000 feet. And it was still going. Again and again. SOS. 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 Send it to command. Elise said, her voice hoarse. Everything. The pulses. The ROV footage. Every goddamn second of it. She stared out the porthole into the blackness beyond. Whatever was down, there wasn't just harvesting metal. It wanted them to know. The ocean didn't speak. It pulsed. The sonar room aboard the USS Osprey had become a chapel of static. The repeating signal hadn't stopped since 0300. SOS, over and over. But now, new pulses emerged in between. Higher frequency. Fainter, but deliberate. Background noise? Asked Carson, though he already knew the answer. No, Elise said. It's layered communication, like overlapping signals. She stood beside the sonar console, arms folded tightly across her chest. The new pattern wasn't Morse. It was alien, longer strings, odd intervals, as if testing their language, or mimicking it. Outside, the sea was calm. Above deck, the crew carried on their drills and shifts under a sunless dawn, oblivious to what the trench had begun whispering. Inside, Elise's mind raced. Replay the last 5 minutes, slowed 20%. The audio engineer queued it up. The SOS was still there. 3 shorts, 3 longs, 3 shorts, but now she heard something beneath it. Faint, almost vocal. A moan, or a word. Carson stepped back. That's not an echo. Elise leaned in. The sound warped like a voice filtered through water and static. A single phrase played twice, distorted but unmistakable. We see you. The room chilled. Get Dr. Sims on the secure line, Elise snapped. Now. Dr. Howard Sims hadn't left his cabin since boarding the Osprey. He was the Navy's last resort oceanographer, a brilliant but disgraced scientist exiled after claiming non-human intelligence had been documented at crushing depths. The Navy called him a quack. Elise called him necessary. When the door opened, Sims blinked into the hallway light like a man pulled from the bottom of the sea. Commander Grant, he croaked. I assume this is about the ROV feed. And the new signal. They walked in silence to the briefing room. Sims carried a battered leather notebook clutched against his chest like a life vest. Back in 1987, he began, voice raspy. The USS Kensington reported a near-identical SOS loop while surveying mineral seams off the Tonga Trench. Same altitude, same sudden silence. We chalked it up to sonar anomalies and swept it under the rug. He opened the notebook. Inside were grainy sonar prints and hand-drawn diagrams. Spiraling structures embedded in sea rock, impossible energy readings, and schematic-like sketches of long tendrils wrapping around metal fragments. We called them harvesters, he said. They don't take people. They take material, manganese, cobalt, rare earths, anything conductive. And sometimes the machines carrying them. Machines. Elise frowned. Ships. Submarines. Drones. They take what's useful. Strip the rest. She flipped to a page marked harvest pattern. It showed a crude sketch of a trench with hexagonal regions marked as extraction zones. Underneath, possible extraterrestrial salvage operation. How long have they been doing this? Elise asked. Longer than we've known how to listen. At 0700, a new signal broke through the sonar. Short, long, short, short. Then static. Then again. Elise pulled out the cipher reference. The sequence matched an emergency code. Hull breach. BGO contamination. Where is this coming from? She asked. Same depth as the Holloway, Carson said. But further south. Deeper. That didn't make sense. The Holloway had no backup systems capable of long-range transmission post-failure. Its batteries would have died within hours. It's not the Holloway, Sims said quietly. It's what's left of it. They're using it. Using it how? As a conduit. A puppet. They're speaking through its systems now. The bridge crackled over the intercom. Commander Grant to deck. Unidentified contacts spotted near port side buoy. Elise bolted up the ladder. On deck, the morning fog clung low to the water. A lifeboat bobbed near the horizon. It wasn't theirs. They hauled it in. Inside lay a single man, drenched, silent, wide-eyed with trauma. His skin was pale, lips cracked and blue. He wore a Holloway uniform. He shouldn't have been alive. Medical, Elise shouted. Now! The man didn't blink as they pulled him out. He just muttered one thing, over and over. Don't follow them. Don't follow the light. Then he seized, full-body convulsions, and went limp. The medbay tried everything, but he died within minutes. No trauma, no apparent cause. Just stopped, as though his body had been running on borrowed time. Sims leaned over the corpse. This isn't survival, he murmured. It's a message. Elise didn't like where this was going. What kind of message? They let him go. On purpose. Carson stepped in with wide eyes. You need to hear this. He played the final moments of the man's body cam recorder, which had somehow survived. Darkness. Breathing. Then a strange light ahead. A swirling blue orb in the black. Others appeared, floating, leading him. Then a voice, not his. Mechanical. Layered. You carry what we need. You will return. Static. Then screams. Then silence. That night, Elise stood alone at the stern of the ship, staring into the water. Beneath her, miles of crushing dark hid something that moved, thought, and waited. It didn't just harvest. It watched. The ocean didn't speak. It warned, and humanity hadn't been listening. It took Elise a full minute to register what she was seeing. The image on Sim's tablet screen wasn't a sonar chart or a mineral scan. It was a photo, black and white, grainy. It showed what looked like a World War II-era submarine, twisted, decayed, but its hull was split open, and inside were stacked spheres of copper, gold, and cobalt, like offerings in a shrine. That photo was taken in 1964, Sims said, from a bathyscaphe dive in the Philippine Sea. The Navy classified it within hours. Elise sat back, eyes narrowing. That's not natural corrosion. No, Sims said grimly. It was carved, stripped. He swiped to the next image, a satellite photo taken from a classified NOAA satellite. There were 6 glowing dots on the ocean floor. Not lights, hot zones. Sites of concentrated heat and radiation where there should be none. And what are those? Harvest pits, Sims replied, each one at the base of a trench. All sites where ships, planes, or submarines have disappeared under unexplained circumstances in the last 100 years. Bermuda, Java, Puerto Rico Trench. This thing isn't regional, Elise. It's global. She leaned forward. How the hell has this never gone public? Sims gave her a tight, humorless smile. Because we didn't want it to. In 1985, the CIA launched a covert research program called Project Nereus. Its purpose: investigate strange sonar returns and electromagnetic pulses detected at the ocean's greatest depths. Phenomena too structured to be geological, but not attributable to any known technology. Sims had been one of its lead analysts. We thought it was just the Soviets at first, he said. Then we lost the Nautilus and the Kensington, then a Chinese sub. The wreckage, when we could find any, looked melted, almost digested. Elise stared at the file he handed her. Photos of hulls with circular boreholes, long as a man's body. Cavities stripped clean of wiring and alloy. Some metal still bubbled, warped. They're extracting something, she whispered. Not just metals, conductive compounds, rare earths. What? Sims rubbed his temples. Every deep space telescope shows signs of heavy metal depletion in old star systems. They mine planets the way we strip mountains. Earth is just another source. Elise exhaled. So they've been here for decades. Why now? That's the thing, Sims said. The rate of incidents has tripled in the last 5 years. And recently, we started detecting this. He tapped the screen again. This time, it played a waveform recording. Low, rhythmic pulses. Not sonar. Not language. Something else. It's not a signal, he said. It's a countdown. That night, Elise returned to her quarters and stared at the satellite maps laid out like puzzle pieces. If this was a resource war, Earth was already losing. They weren't just stealing, they were farming, collecting us like crop rotations. Only we didn't know we were the field. A knock came at her door. It was Carson, his face pale. You need to see this. They walked briskly to the CIC, where 2 analysts hunched over a bank of monitors. 30 minutes ago, Carson said, we intercepted a broadcast between one of our deep-sea relays and a Russian undersea drone. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't even human. The screen lit up with a playback. The voice was synthetic, stuttering with layered tones, too smooth to be natural speech. Return. Structures deteriorating. Material yield lower. Final harvest near. A second voice responded, gravelly, filtered, acknowledged. Transference protocols active. Vessel units in motion. Elise leaned in. Transference. Carson nodded. That's what scares me. We think it means they're not just taking resources anymore. They're taking us. Sims appeared in the doorway, face pale. Worse, they may be planning to become us. Back in the med bay, Elise stared at the dead sailor they'd pulled from the lifeboat. His body was cold. Still, but they just finished the autopsy, and it revealed something no one could explain. His blood had trace metallic elements, iridium, tungsten, and something unidentified. Something synthetic. Not poison. Not infection. Nanostructures, the medic explained. Like microfilaments, woven into his cells. He wasn't alive when we found him. Something was animating him. Sim stood beside her, silent. They're testing something, she muttered. Using our bodies like prototypes. The final harvest, Sims said softly. It's not just minerals, it's intelligence. Biology. Us. At 0200, Elise transmitted a secure burst message to command. She laid out everything. The transmissions, the dead sailor, the countdown. She demanded reinforcements, extraction, a blackout zone if needed. The ocean was no longer just deep, it was occupied. She never got a reply. Instead, her screen flickered. An incoming message, and signed, classified level Omega Red. She opened it. Inside was a single sentence. Stand down. Do not interfere. Operation Neptune Veil is active. Her stomach turned. She turned to Sims. What the hell is Neptune Veil? His face went gray. It means, he said, they've already made a deal. They launched at midnight. The Osprey's hull groaned as the heavy pressurized pod was lowered over the side, swinging gently above the glassy Black Sea. The descent capsule was small, just enough room for three, and designed to withstand 40,000 feet of pressure. It had never been tested beyond 30,000. Elise sat inside with Carson and Dr. Sims, strapped tight as the mechanical crane clanked overhead. Outside, the sea shimmered under moonlight, serene in its deception. You sure you're ready for this? Carson asked, forcing a smile. Elise gave him a sideways glance. We passed ready about 3 disappearances ago. Sims was quiet, staring out the tiny viewport like a man looking into the void and knowing it would look back. Above them, the support crew gave the all-clear. The capsule descended. The ocean swallowed them whole. At 5,000 feet, the light vanished. At 10,000, the water became ink. There was no up, no down, only black. The capsule lights illuminated nothing beyond 10 feet. Elise kept her eyes on the depth gauge. 15,000, 20,000, 25,000. Picking up magnetic interference, Carson said, adjusting his console. Mild but climbing. Sims tapped the screen. It's not just magnetic. It's biological. There's something alive near the trench floor. Something large. The capsule's sonar pinged, slow and steady. Then something pinged back. Elise leaned forward. Did we just get a return? Yes, Carson whispered. We're not alone. 28,000 feet. The pings increased. Then, without warning, everything went dead. No light. No sound. Then a low vibration echoed through the hull, deep and resonant, like a massive heartbeat. It made their bones hum. Reboot systems, Elise ordered, but her voice felt muffled, like the ocean was pressing inward, trying to crush not just the pod, but their minds. The screens flickered to life again, but now showed something else. Shapes. Huge, geometric forms rising from the ocean floor. Not rock. Not coral. Towers. Are those structures? Carson breathed. No, Sims said, eyes wide. They're machines. One tower rotated slowly, covered in veins of blue light. Around it, swarms of eel-like things slithered through the dark, wrapping themselves around exposed metal, connecting, feeding. And between the towers, piles of stripped debris, ship hulls, propellers, pieces of submarines, and bodies. The capsule shuddered as a shadow passed above. Something immense. Carson shouted. That's not a whale. A form moved through the darkness like a drifting nightmare. At least 100 feet long, thin, multi-limbed. It had no face, just rows of glimmering eyes. It hovered for a moment above the pod, then vanished. The lights inside flickered again. Elise touched her earpiece. We're going to die down here. Sims didn't disagree. This is a graveyard, a mining site, and we're trespassing. Then the capsule lights surged blinding white. The ocean ahead parted, not physically, but visually, like something was altering perception. A light appeared in the distance. One single orb, swirling blue, the same as in the body cam footage. No, Carson whispered. Don't follow it. The sailor, he said. Too late. The pod's controls shifted, autopilot engaging. Elise slammed her fists on the override. Manual only. It's not responding, Carson barked. Something's pulling us in. Through the viewport, the orb grew closer. It wasn't emitting light. It was light. Pure, impossible. A shape without form. Not a lure, a signal. Elise felt her ears pop. Her skin tingled. Voices filled her head. We gave warning. You persist. Observe. The light engulfed the capsule. They weren't in the trench anymore. Not physically. Not entirely. The walls of the capsule flickered, transparent, like they were floating between dimensions. Below them was a vision of Earth from space, metallic rings orbiting the oceans. Above them, massive vessels shaped like stingrays hovered in silence. A future. Sims was weeping. This isn't a dream, he whispered. It's a download. Elise couldn't speak. Her mind was stretched. Images, sounds, memories. A billion years of history, from planets stripped dry to stars left dark and hollow. Civilizations absorbed and rewritten. Harvested. Then Earth. Oceans drained. Cities repurposed. Humans reduced. Agreement was made. Exchange in progress. Interference disrupts continuity. Then, as fast as it came, the vision snapped shut. They were back in the trench. The light gone. Silence. Then a mechanical click inside the capsule. Carson's voice trembled. We're ascending. They're sending us back. Why? Elise breathed. Sims answered, hollow. Because they want someone to remember. The pod surfaced at dawn, steaming and silent. Above deck, the crew scrambled to recover them. Medics pulled them out, half catatonic. The Admiral was waiting. Elise stood shakily, eyes bloodshot. We saw it, she whispered. They're not invading. They're already here. The Admiral said nothing. He handed her a sealed envelope. Inside, one line. Neptune veil complete. Operation Trident begins. Elise stared at him. You knew. He met her gaze. We struck a deal. A long time ago. Harvest in exchange for survival. Limited interference. But they broke it. Or maybe we did. Behind him, the ocean glittered beneath the rising sun. Calm, innocent. But she knew better now. It wasn't just deep. It was alive. The surface had never felt more fragile. Back on the USS Osprey, Elise stared across the gray, endless water, her mind reeling. The descent had broken something. Inside her, and maybe inside reality itself. Now that they'd seen the truth, everything above felt artificial. The sea was no longer a barrier. It was a curtain, and something had started pulling it back. Admiral Roque confirmed. Carson said beside her, reading from a secure tablet. Neptune veil's been lifted. Every classified site in the Pacific is being evacuated. Civilian sonar networks are being jammed. And satellites are going dark. Going dark? Elise asked. Every major satellite monitoring the ocean's gone. Hijacked. One by one. He handed her the screen. A live feed showed them disappearing, red dots blinking off like dying stars. Sims joined them, pale and trembling. They're blinding us. They're preparing, Elise said. For what? Sims met her eyes. For arrival. That night, the ocean bloomed with light. Not from above, but from below. Dozens of bioluminescent flares pierced the depths, rising slowly, spreading like ink veins under glass. Then came the tremors. Small at first, then violent. The Osprey listed starboard as alarms rang across the decks. Seismic activity increasing. Point source at 9,000 meters. One of the techs shouted, "It's not tectonic, it's engineered." On the bridge, Elise watched the radar screen explode with movement. Dozens of unknown contacts, rising. Sims pointed out the window. There, in the distance, the sea bulged outward, as if something vast was displacing the water from beneath. A moment later, it erupted. A massive form breached the surface, 80 meters tall, a tower of metal and flesh. Tentacled arms unfolded from its sides, dripping with bioluminescent sludge. Its head turned, if it could be called a head, revealing a cluster of rotating discs that shimmered with internal energy. The creature didn't roar. It broadcasted. Elise clutched her ears as a pulse of sound and pressure rocked the ship. Men screamed. Lights flickered. The air vibrated like the world was being rewritten. Then another emerged. And another. They were here. By morning, 5 coastal cities had reported anomalous contact. By noon, Tokyo Bay was sealed off by a blackout order. By 2 p.m., the world knew. The truth couldn't be hidden anymore. Live streams caught flashes, massive, moving shadows. Ships sliced in half. Fishing trawlers lifted like toys. Entire oil rigs melted. Global panic followed. Conspiracies gave way to reality. News stations abandoned their anchors for live survival updates. The aliens weren't attacking in the way humans understood war. They were harvesting in the open. New broadcast from Fleet Command, Carson said. They're mobilizing satellites, sub-launch drones, coordinated retaliation. They're wasting time, Sims muttered. You can't fight tectonic plates with rifles. They're not aiming to win, Elise said. They're trying to stall, give civilians time to run. She knew it was futile, because the real invasion wasn't happening in cities. It was happening inside systems. That night, the Osprey intercepted a signal, but it wasn't alien. It was human, coded, old-school military encryption. Source, Arctic Circle, Carson reported. Originating from a black site known as Bastion Zero, decommissioned 30 years ago. Supposedly, Elise leaned over the console. The message was clear. Trident Protocol engaged. Final asset awakening. What the hell is Trident Protocol? She asked. Sims looked like he'd seen a ghost. I heard rumors. Back in Nereus, they called it the last fuse. A contingency hidden under the ice, meant to activate if Earth was ever fully compromised. A weapon? Carson asked. A warning. The message continued. Deployment ETA, 48 hours. Hold the surface. Contain the rise. The next morning, a video surfaced online, grainy, filmed from a trembling phone camera aboard a refugee vessel near Guam. The footage showed a girl, no more than 10, staring over the side of the boat. She was humming. In her hand, she held a metal rod, scrap, bent like a tuning fork. As she hummed, the water began to glow. A shape moved beneath, massive, alien, but it did not attack. It hovered, responding to her tone, matching it. Then it sank again, leaving the boat untouched. The video ended there, but its implications detonated across the world. Sims played the clip on a loop. She didn't call it. She sang to it. Carson stepped away from the screen. What if they're not just here to harvest? What if they're testing something else? Sims answered for them both. Harmony. Compatibility. Maybe not all of them want to destroy. Maybe someone emerge. Elise said nothing, but her mind spun. The aliens weren't mindless monsters. They were builders, strategists, watchers, and perhaps recruiters. That night, the sky bled fire. Dozens of deep-sea spires burst from the ocean's surface, like teeth tearing through the planet's skin. Energy pulses lashed the sky. Satellites fell like meteors. Communications died. Nuclear submarines vanished from the map without a ping. The harvest had become a reckoning, and somewhere in the Arctic, something ancient was waking up to meet it. The Arctic wind screamed across the frozen waste like a dying god. Bastion Zero loomed in the whiteout like a ghost ship, half buried in ice, forgotten by time and design. A dome of old-world alloys and bleeding-edge tech, decommissioned decades ago until now. Elise stepped off the VTOL, snow crunching under her boots, skin numbed instantly. Sims and Carson followed behind her, both armed, both hollow-eyed. This was the last thread of the world's plan. One final fuse before the end. A silent escort of black-suited operatives guided them into the complex. No names, no ranks, just stares that held the same unspoken truth. Everything else had failed. Inside, the heat was suffocating. The command center buzzed with ancient computers and new terminals jerry-rigged into systems that should never have worked together. At the center stood a woman with silver hair and hollow cheeks, eyes like data shards. "Dr. Kamara," Sims whispered. "You're still alive." "I never left," she replied. "They buried me here with a protocol. Figured if the world ended, someone should be awake to push the button." Elise stepped forward. "What is Trident?" Kamara turned to a massive wall display. It showed a map of the planet's oceans, except the coastlines had shifted. Some were erased, others submerged. "Trident isn't a weapon. Not directly." She tapped a screen, bringing up a blueprint, a monstrous, triangular structure hidden beneath the polar ice shelf. "It's a resonator, the first of 3 built after we discovered what lived in the Mariana Trench. We couldn't defeat them, but we could interrupt them. Trident was designed to destabilize their neural lattice." Elise narrowed her eyes. "You mean confuse them?" "More than that. Scramble their link to the hive mind. Shut down their ability to coordinate. Make them act alone. Vulnerable." Carson stared. "But what's the cost?" Kamara looked him dead in the eye. "Greenland will fracture. Sea levels will rise. Every coastal city will drown within a month." Elise didn't flinch. "And if we don't?" Kamara just turned the screen again. It now showed South America, then the Atlantic. Bright red pulses rising from the depths. Dozens, then hundreds. "They're not coming anymore," she said. "They've arrived." Activation required 3 keys: physical, neural, and emotional calibration. One from the commander, Kamara. One from the observer, Sims. And the last from the survivor, Elise. She stepped into the chamber. Sensors wrapped around her temples. Cold gel touched her neck. She saw flashes, memories of the trench, of the sailor with metal in his blood, of the song the child had sung to the sea. Kamara spoke through the intercom. "You'll feel resistance, mental pressure. They'll try to stop you, psychically, maybe even empathetically." "I'm ready," Elise said. But she wasn't. As the system charged, a voice echoed inside her skull. Not Kamara's, not Sims's. "You don't understand. We were not always devourers. You built signals. We answered. You dug too deep. We came." She saw it again, planet stripped, yes, but also integrated. Civilizations uplifted. Symbiosis in some cases. In others, extinction. You call it invasion. We call it selection. She saw Earth's future, one with humanity and one without. Then the voice faded, and Elise screamed. The resonator spun to life. Across the planet, the ocean pulsed. The sky crackled as pressure waves disrupted the alien signals. The harvesters stilled mid-air, writhing, confused. Ships once silent began returning fire. Drones swarmed like wasps. Humanity had bought time, but the price was immediate. The Arctic shelf shattered. A thunderous crack echoed across continents as thousands of square miles of ice broke free. Tsunamis roared to life. In minutes, the coastlines of Canada, Scandinavia, and Russia were swallowed. The Osprey, holding station off Greenland, was gone in an instant. Carson, watching from Bastion Zero, dropped to his knees. "God," Kamara simply whispered. "We lit the fuse." In the weeks that followed, the aliens scattered. Some sank back into the deep. Others drifted aimlessly before decaying. Their hive links severed. They were no longer gods, just ghosts. But the world was forever changed. 50 million were displaced. Coastal nations redrew borders. And still, the sea whispered. Elise stood at the edge of the bastion ruins, staring into the flooded basin where the ice had once been. "They'll adapt," she said. "They always do." Sims joined her. "We broke the mind, not their will."